Hello, and welcome to If Numbers Can Talk. I'll be your host, Keilyn. If Numbers Can Talk is a part of the Thinkering group. You can find us over at thinkering.space. There you'll find the Thinkering reports, the Exofathom podcast, along with other content that we will be adding over time from various contributors. You could also check out our merchandise if you would like anything of that nature, or if you simply want to drop us a question, give us a line on some content you'd like to see us delve into or venture. Anything that you have on your mind you want to just say to us, let us know. We're here for you. Over here at Numbers Can Talk, we'll be focusing on numbers, as it says in the title, right? The numbers we'll be focusing on will vary over time. Of course, we're going to start with sports, move into entertainment, maybe even talk about some of your favorite actors, favorite musicians. Do you listen to or watch their work based on name recognition, or do you actually watch the captivating people, the ones who the turnout is there whether or not they're going to advertise or not? Is that who you go see, or do you go see the guy who's on the billboard every day, or the lady who's on the billboard every day, or however you identify? It's not my concern. My concern is that you enjoy the content. Today we'll be going to another sport, which is football. And this, I must say, if you are not a football fan, you may and you may not still enjoy this. If you are a football fan, you may and you may not still enjoy this. We're here to discuss numbers, not emotions. We all have our favorites. We all know what we like. But what do the numbers say? If numbers could talk, how would they sway your opinion? Today is going to be a comparison of polar opposites, in my opinion. You have two football players who play the same position, very similar in size. If you ask me, almost similar in result. One's going to give you the over-the-top, super excited, I'm jumping out my seat plays, and the other one is going to give you so much consistency, you're going to get sick of it. You're going to get absolutely tired of, does this dude drop a ball? And mostly because for 16 years of his career up to date, he's only played for one team. And unless you're a fan of that team, you didn't like it. And on the other hand, we have the other gentleman who played for the same team for 8 years. And if you didn't have him on your team, you didn't like him. But both of these men, you cannot deny, are great talents. They both deserve to be in the ranks that they are as far as Hall of Fame and top level all time in their position. So let's get to these two gentlemen that we're discussing right now. And we're talking about Jason Witten and Rob Gronkowski. That's right. Jason Witten and Rob Gronkowski. Polar opposites of the tight end position. Polar opposites. Probably polar opposites off the field as well, but Rob pretty much is in your face every other week because everybody wants to know what he's doing, and Jason Witten could be doing the exact same thing, but cameras aren't following him. So off the field, I couldn't tell you anything about Jason Witten other than he's human. So here we have, I'll start with Jason Witten being the elder statesman in this situation. Jason Witten came into the NFL in 2003. He is still playing. For the first 16 years of his career, he played for the Dallas Cowboys. He played 255 games. He had 1,215 receptions, amassing 12,977 yards. Jeez. If we had to talk about touchdowns, it took him 16 years to get 72 playing for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think anyone's blaming Jason Witten for that. No disrespect to anyone, just looking at the numbers. And he had 50 yards a game. It's That's not a normal thing for a tight end unless you're targeting your tight end. And for a guy that only had four to five receptions a game, they weren't going to him every play. So that means when he got the ball thrown to him, he caught it, he turned it upfield, he did something with it. And or he was in a position he needed to be. He made a secure possession and he hit the ground, and that was the play. In an entire 16 careers, Jason Witten has had 9 fumbles only. 9 fumbles. For a guy who's going across the middle, exposing his body, taking those hits, and or not exposing his body, depending on the technique needed to make that possession, right? A guy like Jason Witten doesn't come around every day. There's not many people out there in the world, I'm not just going to say in the NFL, who are going to turn their back to another person their size, 200 some odd pounds, charging at you, and you're going to turn your back and catch a ball in the hopes of catching that ball and turning it upfield and or at least holding on to it when that person comes to hit you. There's not a lot of people in this world who are going to sacrifice their body for that. But the guy on the other end will. So we have Rob Gronkowski. He comes into the league 2010 all the way through 2018. Now, he does take a year off for the 2019 season. He retired. However, he is returning as far as we've been told. He'll be returning to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is where his quarterback Tom Brady was sent in the offseason. I'm a Patriot fan. I feel some way, but my emotions don't matter. I'm grateful for what we got out of those guys. Let's get back to the comparison. Rob Gronkowski spent 8 years for the New England Patriots. He played 115 games with 521 receptions. Now, before I continue, I know that doesn't sound like, unless you watched or you know, you would hear these numbers and say, wait, that doesn't add up. But that's nearly half, in less than half the games, nearly half of what Jason Witten did in 16 years. With 521 receptions, Rob Gronkowski had 7,861 yards. 15 yards per reception. 8 years. 79 touchdowns, which is a little more than our 16-year counter. However, that won't hurt too hard, believe me. And Rob Gronkowski somehow, and I want to say again, I'm a Patriot fan, so I watched a lot of these games. He somehow would give us 68.4 yards a game. I wouldn't believe it if the numbers weren't in front of me. I wouldn't believe it if the numbers weren't in front of me. 68 yards. I mean, Jason Witten was always impressive, and I'm not a Cowboy fan. So, needless to say, I loved watching this guy play. Let's add that in 8 years, Rob Gronkowski had 4 fumbles. Which means he'll probably, if he were to play as long as Jason Witten, another 8 years, he'll probably have about the same, 9. That's what the numbers say. What do you want from me? I'm going to throw in that extra one just because human error. But the numbers actually double that. It would be 8. But human error considered, he might end up at 9, right? So you have these two men who have spent 8 and 16 years respectively in the NFL doing the dirty work. If you don't understand what that means, just wait until I start getting to the linebackers and the backs. The tight ends have to do the dirty work of the offense, along with the linemen, along with the fullbacks, or I don't even know if we even have that position anymore, right? They just call them backs at this point. Listen, Receivers are glorified. Tight ends until your Sharps and your Gonzalez's, they were pretty much ignored and still not appreciated by the fan for a long time. So these are the guys that we really got to know. We got to know that without these guys, those spectacular one-handed catches on the outside, straddling the sideline, we don't see that. Because if you can't get the ball across the middle, they know you're going to the outside. And if you don't have a run game, there's no outside to throw to. Back to the comparison. Because that was all emotion. And numbers can't validify, blah, 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 blah. Numbers couldn't validate anything I just said as far as going across the middle. Or could they? We'll find out one day. Jason Witten and Rob Gronkowski, size-wise, are identical. Award-wise, I'll cover that. Jason Witten, 6'6", 263 pounds. That's what he's listed at. He was the 69th pick in 2003. He was the 69th pick in 2003. Rob Gronkowski, 6'6", 265 pounds. He was the 42nd pick in 2010 by the New England Patriots. And Jason Witten was the 69th pick in 2003 by the Dallas Cowboys. When you are built like these dudes, the guy on the other end of the ball is just thinking, please don't throw the ball my way. Not his way, my way. Because you have to hit him, and guess what? He's hitting back. But then you have a couple of those backs out there, man. They want you to throw it to them. I'm going to be honest. Some of those guys are bloodthirsty. And that's why we love the sport. So if you have a problem with that, look internal first. Because I can't tell you there's a different reason we watch the sport other than to watch the collisions and the amazing plays that are constructed by the coaches and executed by the players. And at the end of most of those plays, there is a collision. So if you have a problem with my love for that part of the game, evaluate why you watch it as why you watch the same thing I watch. The awards for Rob Gronkowski and Jason Witten. Ooh-wee. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Rob was injured one year when you guys won the Super Bowl over in the New England Patriots. I agree. He was. But the numbers are still going to count it. So let's get to that. Jason Witten has 0 championships and 0 trips to the Super Bowl. That is not something that is Jason Witten's problem solely. He has been on a team his entire career, same as Rob Gronkowski. Rob has 3 championships and has been to the Super Bowl 5 times. Again, one of them he did not participate in due to injury. They both have 6 playoff appearances altogether. 6 playoff appearances. Neither has an MVP. Neither have Super Bowl MVPs. Jason Witten is an 11-time Pro Bowler. 11-time Pro Bowler. Rob Gronkowski is a 4-time Pro Bowler. So in 16 years, Jason Witten went to the Pro Bowl 11 times. In 8 years, Rob Gronkowski went to the Pro Bowl 4 times. It's a major drop-off. That's a major drop-off. Some are going to say, oh, well, the first couple of years and he played shorter. Hey, emotion doesn't matter. Numbers say he only went 4 times. Now, that is 50% of his career. That does matter. But 11 of 16 is more than 50%, isn't it? Around 60. 66, 68 maybe, right? I didn't do the math on that part, but using my brain a little bit, I know it's more than 50%. Jason Witten has 2 first-team All-Pro selections. Jason Witten also has 2 second-team All-Pro selections. Rob Gronkowski has 4 first-team All-Pro selections with no second-team All-Pro selections. Neither has ever been the reception leader in the NFL. Only Rob Gronkowski of the 2 has ever been the touchdown leader of the NFL. Now, let's be clear. If you have ever watched a Patriot game when Rob Gronkowski was playing, he was our main receiver. He was the red zone target. Not a red zone target. He was the red zone target. If you allowed us to move up the field, we weren't throwing bombs. If you know Tom Brady, that wasn't happening. So the moment we got inside that 20, it was going to Rob. If we were inside the 5, it was going to Rob. If we were on the 1, Tom might dive over the top. But if we were on the 2, it was going to Rob. So understand that as a fan, I look at this and I see the numbers of touchdown leader for Rob Gronkowski and I say, duh. We also won a Super Bowl that year. Duh. But hey, what the numbers are telling me right now is this comparison is pretty even. What the numbers are telling me right now is if Rob didn't take off last year, he may have broken a couple of his own records. I'm not going to say all-time records, but he may have surpassed himself a little bit. He may have had a better overall rating in this particular comparison that we're going through right now. But hey, right now, it's like 2 racers. They're neck and neck. The camera couldn't tell you who was in front. So let's find out who had the best seasons, which years were the best seasons in which particular stats, and which are the most impressive. Because this, ladies and gentlemen, is how we are going to find out what the numbers are saying about these 2 gentlemen. If these numbers that I'm reading off, these numbers that I have researched, if these numbers could talk, what would they say? Jason Witten, his best season as far as playing games, which means he did not miss 1 game, was 2019 last season. Now that is not the only 16 game season. However, it is his most recent. It was a big impactful year for him. And it was a contract year. So that matters. For Rob Gronkowski, 2011 was his 16 game season, his healthiest season. Possibly one of 2 16 game seasons his whole career. So, yeah. Missed a lot of games, but not really. It's football. So, think about it that way. Best reception year for Jason Witten, 110 receptions in the year 2012. Best reception year for Rob Gronkowski, 90 receptions. The year was 2011. Most reception yards for Jason Witten, 1,145 yards in the year 2007. Best reception yards year for Rob Gronkowski, 1,327 yards in the year 2011. Yards per reception. Now this is important. For Jason Witten, 11.9 yards per reception in the year 2011. 11.9. That's a first down every catch. Right? For Rob Gronkowski, best yards per reception year, 21.6 yards per reception, 2016. Now, remember I said these guys are polar opposites. So, again, Rob's giving you the big plays. That's what he's there for. We're not even he didn't even play on a team where the guy is throwing it 40, 50 yards for him like that. That's not how this was happening. This mammoth, the same with Jason Witten, these mammoths catch the ball and they will drag two grown men behind them if they have to. 21.6 yards per reception. The year was 2016 for Rob Gronkowski. The best touchdown year for Jason Witten, 9 touchdowns, 2010. That's big. 9 touchdowns, 2010. Okay? Rob Gronkowski, touchdown leader, 2011, 17 touchdowns. 17 touchdowns in one season. Again, I will repeat, main target. Jason Witten's had a bunch of guys on the outside. He's had guys in the backfield. I don't think many years of his career he's been the number one target for his team. Maybe still the most impactful player for his team. But number one target, that kind of goes with who the fans want to see, unfortunately. That's how these professional sports work. Of course you want to win. Of course you want to win. But who's bringing up the ratings? Again, polar opposites. Jason Witten, you wouldn't even know these were his numbers if I wasn't reading them. You could have watched every game. You could be the biggest Dallas Cowboy fan. You wouldn't know Jason Witten's numbers because he's a really low-key but impactful guy. And that is how this comparison comes up. A guy like Gronk, who is out there every day, like it's almost like the guy's wearing a highlighter on his helmet. Whereas Jason Witten can almost disappear, but the moment that ball comes out of his quarterback's hand, you better know if it's coming his way, you got trouble. We go on to the longest reception in 1 year. Not of their career. Well, I guess this would be career, right? Longest reception. Jason Witten's longest reception was 69 yards in 2009. 69 yards. He torched somebody. I just want to make that known. These guys are coming off the line. They aren't the fastest guys on the field all the time. So he didn't. It wasn't necessarily, oh, I juked you. No. I'm assuming this guy blasted somebody off the line and you were got it there. He got that ball and tucked it and was out of there, right? Longest reception for Rob Gronkowski. Similar situation. Guarantee you these guys got off that line, blasted somebody, got that ball and tucked it. 76 yards. Rob Gronkowski, 2015. 69 yards, 76 yards. Listen, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Both of those are incredible numbers. So let's just focus on the numbers. Don't let the, oh, that's incredible, get to you too much. We're almost there. Receptions per game. 2012, Jason Witten, 6.9 receptions per game. 2012, Jason Witten, 6.9 receptions per game. Now remember again, this is not the number one target. Okay? Number two for sure. I couldn't see many people even being over him as number one, but I had to take some time and look at some of the guys he played with. Not always the number one. I think, again, maybe 1 or 2 seasons his whole career, he was the number one target. But, again, Rob was always the number one target for the Patriots for a long-standing time, right? Rob Gronkowski, 2013, 5.6 receptions per game. That's the highest, 5.6. And that was your number one. Again, though, yards per reception in 2016, 3 years later, was 21.6. So I don't think it was under 10 in 2013, right? Under 10 yards per reception, that is. Receiving yards per game, max year, the same year that Jason Witten had his longest or most yards receiving yards, he had his most receiving yards per game, 71.6 yards per game in 2007, which is the same year he got 1,145 yards in a single year. Wow. Rob Gronkowski, receiving yards per game, best year, 84.6 receiving yards per game in the year 2013. This was not the same year as his most receiving yards, which was 2011. But it was the same year as his most receptions per game. So at 5.6 receptions per game, Rob Gronkowski received 84.6 yards per game. Numbers, man. Just, if you're writing these down to go along with me, keep writing. We're almost there. If you're not, and you're trying to remember them off the top of your head, you are a better soul than me. Than we. Yeah. Fumbles. In 2014, Jason Witten did not drop the ball one time. In 2016, Rob Gronkowski did not drop the ball one time. Neither of those stats are surprising to me. Had I really thought about it, I probably would have given you the amount of times each of these gentlemen did not drop the ball. How many years did they not drop the ball? That is an incredible stat I should have looked up. And maybe you can do it in your spare time for yourself and see what those numbers say. If numbers could talk, how would they sway your opinion? Now, what year do you think these gentlemen had their most targets? Well, in 2012, Jason Witten had 147 targets, which means he was thrown to 147 times in 2012. For those who aren't football savvy, I understand. 147 targets in 1 year. And for Rob Gronkowski, he was thrown to 131 times in 2014. So in 2014, he was thrown to 131 times. From everything I have read, both of these gentlemen were super, super mondo impactful for their teams. Without them, their teams probably would have never won a game. Looking at these numbers. In any of these years, these gentlemen could have been on any team and done equivalent or better depending on that team's necessity, right? So what do the numbers say? If numbers could talk, how would they sway the opinion of the average person if asked Rob Gronkowski versus Jason Witten? Well, statistically, Rob's kind of just incredible, right? But statistically, Jason is consistent. Which means not only is he not going to become a major target for the defense until they start looking at these numbers, but initially they're not scheming for him. On the surface, at least. They're going to scheme for anybody that can make a difference, right? But initially, you're not scheming saying, hey, got to watch Jason. He's gonna give us 50. He's gonna give us 71 yards tonight. But when you know Rob is on the other side, you know there's a chance he can give you 21 yards per catch. Now, both of these gentlemen are gonna give you a first down, but a first down versus 21 yards per catch, you're not only game planning for that, you're not only scheming for that, you're dreaming about that. You're sweating about that. Jason Witten is going to be so consistent, however, because you won't scheme for him immediately, you're going to get burned. Your team's going to end up down. So what are the numbers saying? The numbers are saying that if we have a huge game and we need a win right now, probably last 2 minutes of the game, tie game, both teams have been playing hard. You're probably going to need Rob. Not because Jason couldn't get the job done, but because you're going to need to go big at this point. It's a tight game. There's no use in being conservative, right? But if we're at the beginning of a game, both teams 0-0, the other side doesn't have a Rob Gronkowski or a Jason Witten, you might need to take a Jason Witten. Take a guy that can slow burn him. You're going to hit your running back, give him some plays. Your quarterback might do a couple sneaks. You might be able to run some option plays. You're going to be able to run a much diverse game. When you have a Rob Gronkowski out there, one of your weapons is basically going to get taken away from you. And you're going to have to start using those other weapons to now open up that main weapon, which would be your Rob Gronkowski. So it's more about the kind of game you're looking to play, right? That's when your emotions come into play. But these numbers are telling me if these were the 1 and 2 options I had, I'm going to have to start Rob and I'm going to have to rotate Jason in because we know who they're looking at, but we also know what we can do to hurt them really, really bad. These numbers tell me that both of these gentlemen are first ballot Hall of Famers. These numbers tell me neither of these men should ever have to hear they didn't ... when it came to football. Thanks for listening. If Numbers Could Talk is brought to you again by the Thinkering Group. My name is Keilyn. I hope you enjoyed it.